Chapter 15 of Bambi, A Life in the Woods, by Felix Salten. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne Fletcher. Chapter 15. A few days later they were walking carefree together through an oak thicket on the far side of the meadow. They had to cross the meadow in order to reach their old trail where the tall oak stood. As the bushes grew thinner around them, they stopped and peered out. Something red was moving near the oak. Both of them looked at it. "Who can it be?" whispered Bambi. "Probably Ronno or Carus," said Feline. Bambi doubted it. "They don't dare come near me any more," Bambi said, peering sharply ahead. "No," he decided, "that's not Carus or Ronno. It's a stranger." Feline agreed, surprised and very curious. "Yes," she said, "it's a stranger. I see it too now. Oh, how curious." They watched him. "How carelessly he acts!" exclaimed Feline. "Stupid," said Bambi. "Really stupid. He acts like a little child, as if there were no danger." "Let's go over," Feline proposed. Her curiosity was getting the better of her. "All right," Bambi answered. "Let's go. I want to have a better look at the fellow." They took a few steps and then Feline stopped. "Suppose he wants to fight you," she said. "He's strong." "Bah," said Bambi, holding his head cocked and putting on a disdainful air. "Look at the little antlers he has. Should I be afraid of that? The fellow's fat and sleek enough, but is he strong? I don't think so. Come along." They went on. The stranger was busy nibbling meadow grass and didn't notice them until they were a good way across the meadow. Then he ran forward to meet them. He gave joyful, playful skips that made a curiously childish impression. Bambi and Feline stopped, surprised, and waited for him. When he was a few steps off, he stood still likewise. After a while he asked, "Don't you know me?" Bambi had lowered his head, prepared for battle. "Do you know us?" he retorted. The stranger interrupted him. "Bambi!" he cried reproachfully, yet confidently. Bambi was startled to hear his name spoken. The sound of that voice stirred an old memory in his heart. But Feline had rushed towards the stranger. "Gobbo!" she cried, and became speechless. She stood there, silent, without moving. She couldn't breathe. "Oh, Feline," said Gobbo softly. "Feline, sister, you knew me anyway." He went to her and kissed her mouth. The tears were running down his cheeks. Feline was crying too, and couldn't speak. "Well, Gobbo," Bambi began. His voice trembled and he felt very bewildered. He was deeply moved and very much surprised. "Well, so you're not dead," he said. Gobbo burst out laughing. "You see that I'm not dead," he said. "At least, I think you can see that I'm not." "Oh, but what happened that time in the snow?" Bambi persisted. "Oh, then," Gobbo said thoughtfully, "he rescued me then." "And where have you been all this time?" asked Feline in astonishment. "With him," Gobbo replied. "I've been with him all the time." He grew silent and looked at Feline and at Bambi. Their helpless astonishment delighted him. And then he added, "Yes, my dears, I've seen a lot more than all of you put together in your old forest." He sounded somewhat boastful, but they paid no attention to it. They were still too much absorbed in their great surprise. "Oh, tell us about it!" cried Feline, beside herself with joy. "Oh," said Gobbo with satisfaction, "I could talk all day about it and never reach the end." "Well then, go ahead and talk," Bambi urged. Gobbo turned to Feline and grew serious. "Is Mother still alive?" he asked timidly and softly. "Oh, yes," cried Feline gladly. "She's alive, but I haven't seen her for a long while." "I'm going to see her right away," said Gobbo with decision. "Are you coming too?" They all went. They did not speak another word the whole way. Bambi and Feline felt Gobbo's impatient longing to see his mother, so both of them kept silent. Gobbo walked ahead hurriedly and did not speak. They let him do as he liked. Only sometimes, when he hurried blindly over a cross-trail, or when in a sudden burst of speed he took the wrong turning, they called gently to him. "This way," Bambi would whisper, or Feline would say, "No, no, we go this way now." A number of times they had to cross wide clearings. They noticed that Gobbo never stopped at the edge of the thicket, never peered around for a moment when he walked into the open, but simply ran out without any precaution. Bambi and Feline exchanged astonished glances whenever this happened, but they never said a word, and followed Gobbo with some hesitation. They had to wander around sometimes and search high and low. Gobbo recollected his childhood paths at once. He was delighted with himself, never realizing that Bambi and Feline were leading him. He looked around at them and called, "How do you like the way I can still find my way around?" They didn't say anything, but they exchanged glances again. Soon afterwards they came to a small leafy hollow. "Look!" cried Feline, and glided in. Gobbo followed her and stopped. It was the glade in which they were both born and had lived with their mother as little children. Gobbo and Feline looked into each other's eyes. They did not say a word, but Feline kissed her brother gently on the mouth. Then they hurried on. They walked to and fro for a good hour. The sun shone brighter and brighter through the branches, and the forest grew stiller and stiller. It was the time for lying down and resting. But Gobbo didn't feel tired. He walked swiftly ahead, breathing deeply with impatience and excitement, and gazed aimlessly about him. He shrank together whenever a weasel slunk through the bushes at his feet. He nearly stepped on the pheasants, and when they scolded him, flying up with a loud flapping of wings, he was terribly frightened. Bambi marvelled at the strange, blind way Gobbo moved around. Presently Gobbo stopped and turned to them both. "She isn't anywhere here," he cried in despair. Feline soothed him. "We'll soon find her," she said, deeply moved. "Soon, Gobbo." She looked at him. He still had that dejected look she knew so well. "Shall we call her?" she asked, smiling. "Shall we call her the way we used to when we were children?" Bambi went away a few steps, and then he saw Aunt Ina. She had already settled herself to rest and was lying quietly in a nearby hazel bush. "At last," he said to himself. At the same moment Gobbo and Feline came up. All three of them stood together and looked at Ina. She had raised her head quietly and looked sleepily back at them. Gobbo took a few hesitating steps and cried softly, "Mother!" She was on her feet in a flash and stood as though transfixed. Gobbo sprang to her quickly. "Mother!" he began again. He tried to speak, but couldn't utter a word. His mother looked deep into his eyes. Her rigid body began to move. Wave after wave of trembling broke over her shoulders and down her back. She did not ask any questions. She did not want any explanation or history. She kissed Gobbo slowly on the mouth. She kissed his cheeks and his neck. She bathed him tirelessly in her kisses, as she had when he was born. Bambi and Feline had gone away. End of chapter 15.